policies. Should I read that?
No, you don't need to.
Okay. Call to order, roll call, please.
Chrissy? Do we do first and last name? Do I need to do first and last name? Chrissy?
Here.
Wanda?
Here.
Mary?
Here.
Andy?
Here.
Susan?
Here. Pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now public comments. The board cannot take action on comments regarding non-agenda items. We do, however, value public input and will consider comments for future action. So we can't comment on non-agenda items, you guys. That's what that says. The chairperson or presiding officer shall have the exclusive authority to recognize speakers from the public during the point of discussion and before it's taken for each agenda item within that agenda. Although there's no time limit, comments are respectfully requested for 2 minutes. Okay. Approval of the special meeting minutes. This is an action item. And that's the March 19th special meeting. So you put your names in here, the board members. Yeah, it's a little different.
Did we put, the park before the indoor water system?
Those were just individuals,
It's not in order, this is not in order of
This is
ranking?
in Adam's order of ranking for overall, but our individual positions are lower.
Yeah, that's just how we listed it. That's how.
Oh, down here it says board priority. Okay. Fire station, and it says park again.
Yep.
I thought it was fire station, water.
I think that was your ranking, but
Yeah, the board's ranking.
no, because my ranking is part of executive.
What was your ranking, Mary? 4. For board prioritization, the fire station, park, water, town center, housing. I think.
Probably that order.
And I think, I'd have to look at my notes, but, I think that 4 and 5 got flopped by Susan and Andy. I'd have to look at my notes.
Yeah, on the second page.
Town center and housing, Andy.
Mine was fire station, water system, park, and then town center and housing were last. Question?
Okay, can I make a comment? Just a gentle reminder. So a big part of the reason that we send the agenda out, so we're required to post it 72 hours in advance, and we end up sending it out a day or two before that. So obviously part of that's required so that the public has an opportunity to know what's happening. But from a staff perspective, a big reason for that is so that the board can review its full packet when you receive it, and then send questions over the weekend, send questions on Monday, or send questions on Tuesday, or even send questions on Wednesday before the board meeting. So that we're all on the same page, and that we all know that we've looked at the materials prior to the board meeting. It's very
That's a good
important.
point, and I'd like to add to that, in addition to that, tonight's meeting is not to evaluate the order of these. That would be a, strategic planning meeting.
Yeah.
And, we did not reorder these, we gave our individual order up for these, I took that down. But we did not have that as an agenda item, we can make that an agenda item, or we could have another strategic planning meeting, but that's not on tonight's agenda, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Are you good with
Yeah,
that?
I think that's something that should be on
No.
is project discussion.
You said that,
Next Thursday.
yeah. After the lawyer meeting or whatever.
Right, we can talk about that next week.
I'm on an expert on this email stuff, but I never could find, I got an email for, the, finance committee meeting, and then I have 3 of them from that, but I cannot find one, cause I, you know, I wanted to look at it and read it in advance, but I never could find it, so.
Well, some of them say comment and some say preview or review. Then you can click on it and read whatever it is, but I don't.
So, and I think there might be, because sometimes I don't get the notifications from the system either, so what we'll start doing for the board is, you know, after we post that and the system generates the email, we'll email you separately the full packet, so that you have it in an email from Keaton.
Yeah, I know Keegan's coming, he's still learning the ropes and coming on board, which I appreciate.
And this is a beautiful set of minutes, guys.
Yeah.
And, but I would like to, yeah, this is the first time we've seen the minutes from the March 19th meeting, so that's why I asked for a minute or two to go through it and if we need clarification on it.
I don't think they were in that. They were just
So
dependent on-
Keaton and I were just discussing
No,
that, so
they
yeah.
weren't.
Okay.
So I out of order if I ask a question, because if I'm gonna approve them, I wanna
Absolutely.
know what I'm approving.
Mhm.
No, you're not out of order. You need me to do gavel?
I can do that, yeah.
You're not thumb screws, Chrissy.
When I have the documents ready, I have.
What's
it
your-
early.
what's your
So
comment?
you said
I just
attached
thought
item.
that it was
Sometimes
a different order, but, you know,
So let's,
okay, we haven't done it yet anyway, so
right.
we can always change it.
And I do like that, I do like the board having unanimous consent on the, I think the board should have unanimous consent on the order, which is why I actually took notes on where you were on the order, but that was not agendized on the last meeting, and it's not agendized on this meeting to change the order. We can put that as an agenda item for future, to reprioritize the order.
And you're gonna make note of that and add it to the agenda?
Yeah, in our discussions, you know, when we talk, these 2 here definitely have the, water system in front of the park. We talk about that every time, you know, we say I have the park in front of the
I do
water,
like
and,
the park in front of the water.
and I'm not trying to change anybody's mind, I'm just telling them why I feel that, and
Yep.
I don't know, just,
Well, I think it's also important to recognize too, so on the one hand, definitely understand the need to have things prioritized, you know, in the correct order. When we start, especially after the first priority though, you know, when we start looking at the order of the rest of the priorities, it guides what staff does, but, you know, it's not like we work in things, just one after the other, right? Everything's moving at the same time, right? It's a question of where you want things sped up, but, so I guess what I'm saying is that from a staff perspective, you know, the park or water being in one position or the other doesn't necessarily,
mean that it's prioritized.
I mean, it doesn't
Things
mean you're not
are-
working on the water.
it means that we're moving as fast as we can really on all 5 of the priorities, frankly.
I think my big thing with the prioritization strategy is that we wanted to make sure that as board members, we could tell the community the fire station was number 1. I think that was the biggest thing. And Bob, because that matters to him. The fire station is our number 1 priority.
Okay, I'm gonna make a motion that we approve the minutes of March 19th.
I second it.
Thank you, Wanda, thank you, Mary. All in favor of accepting the March 19th meeting minutes as they are? Aye. All opposed? Okay.
Chrissy, I have a comment. I'm sorry. I mean, we had public comment, I just totally spaced and missed it. I just wanted to let everybody know, that I'm broadcasting this meeting live. There's been a lot of people from the public who've wanted that and requested that, so every chance I can, I will. So I just wanted to make everyone aware of that, and if you don't want me to point the camera at your face when you have something to say, let me know, and I won't. And there are people that are asking if you guys could speak up just a little bit so they can hear. I have a microphone that I will try to remember to bring to the next one, so we'll make that easier, but there are people who are having a hard time hearing. Thank you.
Did you hear that? You need to speak up.
I don't want my face on the internet at all.
Neither do I.
All right, so this was the special meeting that we
Yeah, March
approved.
19th,
The
and
March
the
19th.
regular March
The
5th
March
meeting.
5th meeting minutes are still, pending.
Yeah, we'll bring those back.
So this is item number 3 is a table item.
Okay.
And Keating and I had that conversation ahead of time, so. She had some difficulty saving the minutes, and we're gonna put our heads together to make sure that they're created correctly. General Manager's report, Mr. Cox.
Okay, so, excited that next week we will have, our finalist for the Utility Operations Manager, come up and visit. We're gonna meet with Mike and I and the staff and go on a district tour, and hopefully we can, get
That's
him.
Tuesday, right?
Wednesday,
Wednesday.
sorry. So that's exciting. We had a relatively good response to the job posting and did interviews, and here we are. Some interesting things have happened, with, possibility of housing projects since our last meeting last week. Discussing that a little bit further with Plymouth County and the State of California's Housing and Community Development Department next week. There might be a pretty sizable grant for us to take advantage of, which would lower the cost of building even further, and then potentially allow for rents to be very reasonable. So I'll return more with information when we have that. The park project is moving along. Met last week with Greenville Little League, as well as some members of the IVRPD board. I think we have a final project scope ready to go. Waiting on one or two more things for IVRPD, and then the plan is to start bidding things out. I think that the route that we've decided to go is to kind of just, instead of, the original plan had been to bid out one packaged project and let a general contractor kind of sub everything out. And after going through everything, it's probably gonna save a bit of money and be just as good for the end result if we simply hire the different trades ourselves to do some of the different work. So that's moving along. I will, gonna try and have something for your approval on the special board meeting next Thursday after your training, so that we can get that moving. This morning, I was in Quincy for the zoning administrator hearing. Happy to report that Plymouth County approved our conditional use permit for the fire station. So that is now officially approved with some conditions, very reasonable and standard conditions. The next step will be for us to submit for a grading permit, and we'll go ahead and do that as soon as possible. And then here, also very soon, we will need the board to approve those plans and specs. We can bid out the grading. We have basically a 3-phase project. So I'll share more with that with you, but phase 1, the grading and some of the underground can start very soon.
That's encouraging.
After we go out to bid.
Of course, yeah, so we'll need to,
That'll be a
the board
six-week
will need to adopt the plans and specs, then we'll advertise them for a few weeks. We've decided to do mandatory bid walk, so we'll do that, and then award the contracts. We're talking by now late April, early May, award the contract by mid-May, and be on our way. Ideally. just a reminder, next Thursday, 10 a.m., probably till 2 or 3 p.m. is my guess, but next Thursday, 10 a.m. here. Will be a board training session in the morning with our legal counsel, and then in the afternoon, we'll do a little bit of strategic planning.
Question? You mentioned the housing. Can you fill me in when the board approved pursuing building and owning housing?
What are you talking about? We haven't approved anything. We have not approved anything as far as approving building and housing. We approved the purchase of 3 lots, that's what we approved.
Okay, well, I'm wondering, from what Adam said, are we getting ahead of ourselves? Should we maybe have that discussion prior to proceeding?
No, I think that
Why?
because what he's doing is he's looking at a grant. He's looking at money, which is what we've asked him to do. When he comes back saying we have this much money, then we apply.
Well, I hate to see Adam and whoever else is writing for grants go through all of this extensive work.
You're the
Without
only one
having-
against building on the board.
Well, I'm throwing ideas out because I am uncomfortable with it, which you know.
I do,
It's
and you were obvious about it last week, but the rest of us were not against letting him pursue a project. So is that change, I mean, you can't change that.
Okay.
Right?
Well,
I mean, again,
as long as nothing comes from us, and you're pursuing this $9 million sitting in Quincy, and that money's gonna go away, or it's gonna go to some other projects, and if that money could come here and build some homes without, I spoke with Tyler yesterday, I go, you do it all, write it all out, show us how we're not gonna have a loss. You know, in long term with, taxes and maintenance and all those things, you know, go on. And so the only way I approve it is as long as we are not spending our money. And they can prove to us that it'll be a, you know, a win,
right,
win-win.
and my statement last week is the same this week. If we're going to stop Adam from, pursuing projects, if we're gonna shoot down projects before he brings them to us, then we should let him go.
I think part of my question is, does the CSD actually want to own and operate these systems, the housing or town center?
I understand that, and I think that was,
And we don't have an answer to that portion.
4 of us thought we were. 4 of us, and 1 did not. You said you were
I
not.
guess I heard something different, Chrissy, that
Did
that was
anybody-
non-committal.
I want more information. I wanna know how we're gonna pay for the insurance, who's gonna maintain it, who's gonna actually own
And
it.
we don't have that
I
information
know.
yet. And because, again, that's what we pay him
I know,
to
but
provide for
He's
us.
going for grants, not telling us how it's gonna happen, and maybe Tyler or somebody, because I
Okay, wait a
remember.
minute. Dan wants to say a word, but we're gonna let the board hash this out first.
I remember Adam specifically saying way back when we bought those properties, he said, I don't wanna be a landlord. This is an investment property. So now I wanna know if we're gonna be a landlord, or we're just gonna, are we gonna give the lots to them?
So
Are we
a
gonna
couple
buy the lots?
things.
We
So
don't-
to be clear, I'm not pursuing a grant right now.
Uh-huh.
I'm pursuing information about a grant
Oh,
to see
okay.
if it fits, right? I mean, we couldn't ask for $9 million without your approval anyway.
Yeah.
So, my understanding, and I expressed this last week, but I feel still pulled in both directions, that the board wants more information, but then says it doesn't have enough information, but then doesn't want me to work to get the information so that they have the information to make the decision. It's very, very confusing for staff, I'm just gonna tell you that right now. So what I'm doing is doing my best to get all the information, to put together a package for you, to give you all of that. We have a draft pro forma that we've put together that looks exceedingly, extremely, good, for making this a profitable venture, a pro forma for a housing project.
Subdivision?
It would be it would be what's envisioned right now is a multi-site project. So not building some apartment complex, right? Be building X number of homes across X number of
Our
sites.
3 sites, we're talking about additional sites.
Perhaps, well, certainly our 3 sites and perhaps more, yeah. So, that's part of it, and, you know, the whole landlord thing, you know, my point is that the CSD is not in a position to start hiring maintenance workers and a property manager, you know, on staff to be doing things like that. That's the point. Owning land and having homes built on it and contracting out with a property management firm, to do all of that not fun stuff, I don't see the problem with that as long as we're still supporting the project through rents. But that's the package that's being put together right now. Things can change very drastically whether or not we're talking about getting a $9 million grant or not, right? So we're pursuing all the leads, putting together something to show you the numbers, how many units we would build, what we think rents would be, et cetera.
And just as a reminder, the housing council, information was given to us last week, right? And that's the, organization that talks to, the hospitals, the SPI, you know, PG&E, county, those places that have people that require housing. And I think that figure was that we're 1,900 bedrooms or houses?
Oh, total countywide or that are needed? Yeah, something like, yeah,
1,900
1900 total.
short. Our housing is short in the county, which I thought was an interesting figure.
That's because the population of the county's going down.
No, those are houses, these are people that are living outside the county and working in the county, because there is no housing. That's what the housing council reported last week. And so we're getting information from the housing council, we're getting information from the Almanor Foundation, we're getting information from Tyler and Adam.
But I hope we're not giving these other groups false hope.
Who?
No, in fact, it's the opposite.
That's what I'm.
And I'm just gonna tell you, it's the opposite, and the things that some board members said last week have caused the housing council to question whether they need to continue underwriting Tyler's services. I can't do any of this, and the community will not build any housing that's affordable for lease without Tyler's help and the housing council's help. So I would say it's actually quite the opposite, that some of the comments were very discouraging to the Almanor Foundation.
Right, and my feeling on it is if we're going to discourage Adam from thinking outside the box, from looking at things that are gonna benefit the valley, the community, then why are we paying him? Why even have him? And I know, I've heard, you know, before, okay, well, why aren't we just a water and sewer district? Well, we are, but could we hired him, a very talented manager, to think outside the box and find money. That's what we asked him to do, that's what we hired him for. And our community is different in that it burnt down, right? So we're not just a small community, we're a burned out community. And what can we do, I've been saying this since I got on this board, I would like to build community confidence. That's the reason that I voted for purchasing 3 lots. Because if we purchase 3 lots and we have faith in the community, maybe others will too. So that's my position on that. To shoot it down before we see the proposal, I think is disrespectful, and they're very disrespectful to Adam.
Well, I don't think board, well, maybe not the rest of the board members, but myself, feel very uncomfortable because I don't have enough information.
Right. So none of us have any information. So why would we shoot it down before we have any
Let's
information?
just don't spend any money.
I agree.
Right?
If that's your
We'll let our
preference,
talented
then that's how we
manager
get
go
things.
forward, but
Exactly.
don't spend any money and use your
I
knowledge.
think I
and-
even said that last week, is that if we could do housing without spending district money or putting the district at risk, that's my criteria.
Since the
Right.
last meeting, I've had a lot of people say to me that they agreed with the no housing. A lot of community members, and I've talked to
heard
a
that.
I have just the opposite.
I've heard
Yeah,
a lot.
well,
I've got a lot of
to-
people saying
Don't
that
worry, I know
that
exactly which ones say what.
Yeah.
I got just the opposite.
and I've had a lot of people say, no, we
I
don't
don't
need to be
wanna
doing that.
shoot anybody down, I'm just,
It's our job as board members to ask questions,
comment.
and we need all the information to make an informed decision.
And,
Alright,
and we have very little information.
Yeah.
So,
I think we're kind of, I think we're just spinning in a circle. We let Adam go and let him present something that's spectacular, and we all just go, oh yeah, let's do that.
Could we get something by the
Oh,
end of this month? Or
I don't think that's our position as the board.
I don't mean this month, I meant April.
To say that, I think that's for him to tell us.
Yeah, I was just wondering if there's enough information that.
I think timeline wise, there's a good likelihood that you'll have something at your April board meeting at the end of April. I don't know that it will be a final plan to vote on. It might be, ideally it would be, but I don't wanna promise that.
I've seen some of this stuff, this infra centers,
Yes.
how they come into being here.
The what?
This infra centers that did the,
Infra Centers was hired by, the Alumbra Foundation and Almanor Foundation to do the infrastructure master plan for the valley, which is the conceptual infrastructure master plan, which is an excellent document. I would highly encourage you to look at it. And as part of that, once they finish, they still have a little bit of capacity left on their contract. So the Almanor Foundation and Alumbra allowed them to spend time working on our microgrid application to PG&E. That was the only way that we were really able to submit that microgrid application.
yeah, I see they're very closely associated with Tyler and the group he works with.
I mean, it's very closely associated, just like I'm very closely associated because we work together here. They didn't know each other before. They're from Ohio.
I thought there were a lot of,
And what's going on?
Okay, so I'm gonna ask Dan for his comments. Go ahead.
I'd just like to offer the suggestion, maybe, it seems like we're unsure of whether or not this housing project is for us to do or not, right? And I would just like to offer the suggestion, if we could get a detailed plan as to what these units would look like, how they would be paid for, what the operation and maintenance of them would look like, and then present that to the community. Because ultimately what we're talking about here is doing what the community wants with the community's town, right? And so if we have a really solid plan as to where these buildings are gonna go, what they're gonna look like, how they're gonna be built, who's gonna build them, how we're gonna maintain them and operate them, and then present that to the community, then we can decide whether or not this is something worth pursuing. And I'm certainly not saying that we shouldn't pursue the grant money or possibility. It seems like we're putting the cart before the horse a little bit here, though. We're trying to figure out how to fund something that we're not even 100% sure we want to do.
So, thank you for your comments. I appreciate that. I'm going to reiterate again that there was a ton of community outreach that was done by
3 years ago.
tons. 3 years worth of community comments that was gathered and collected and is still available by the Dixie Fire Collaboration. I attended a lot of those meetings. I think you probably attended
I did.
a lot of those meetings. They held them here in Greenville, they held them in Taylorsville, and that information is readily available.
If
But thank you, Dan. I appreciate your comments, and I don't mean to.
No, that's fine. I just want to offer the perspective too. As far I know that there was a ton of community outreach done, and I know that it was painstakingly compiled, and that there is a lot of data out there. I would also offer that was done. It was done years ago, and
No, it's not it's not that long ago, and there was individual phone calls made to every property owner more than multiple times.
it just seems what's interesting. I guess what I find interesting about this is that every person that I talk to, and I talk to a lot of people, right? They have a lot of questions and concerns, and then but when it's presented by the stakeholders, it seems that there's 100%.
That's my point. I am so frustrated with this.
I don't know how to say it.
I don't know how to say it anymore. Nothing's being presented. So to shoot it down before it's been, I'm sorry to cut you off. But, I think that at this point, I'm gonna move forward in the agenda, cause I'm frustrated, and we're gonna table this until we get back to another strategic plan. Okay? Moving on. Go ahead, Adam.
That's it for my report.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is the utility operations report.
So dig it, we finally got them to complete phase 1 and phase 2, we pretty much signed off, they did a lot of paving work today, I don't know if you saw them out there, but we called a lot of areas that needed to be paved. So, those were also known as the Small Community Drought Relief Program and the North Main Water Use Efficiency and Reliability Project. Been a huge undertaking with numerous delays from the contractor dig it. I think I counted 66 days during the summer that they did not operate. They pushed beyond the finalization date, but we have finally gotten to the end and couldn't be more happy about that. Because it's been, I think I counted 300 breaks in our water lines that I just reported. We had over 15 boil water notices. Where I was at before, I've never had one boil water notice. Boil water notices are for pressure drop or for bacteriological positive results. The amount of shutdowns that we had to do because of just pressure dropping, having to shut off the valving, that we counted 15 notifications, and there was quite a few throughout Hot Springs Road and also in the flats. But again, we're done. So I've signed off on it, we're done. The community of Greenville is gonna enjoy a 1-year warranty on the workmanship of dig it. So a lot of the leaks, one of the things a lot of the people don't know in the community is we don't work on private property. So when somebody notifies me of a leak, we go evaluate it, determine where it is. A lot of time it's on their side. We pushed, because we had about 10 leaks that were newly installed, but it was on the customer side. But because it was newly installed by Dig It, we were able to get them to repair it. So that was a good thing. But again, remember that you have a year from the finalization date of the workmanship, but it has to be their workmanship. Do me a favor and let everybody know that the truck that I'm driving has been donated. And it's free to the community, to IVCSD. It was donated by who?
It was donated by,
Yeah,
the group that's operating out of, what's the Copper Creek, is that Copper Creek? Yes, those folks. They had a grant a few years ago to purchase a vehicle. They got it, they used the vehicle, they no longer have need for the vehicle, so they donated it to us.
The Copper Creek owners or the workers that are at Copper Creek? Yeah.
It was a group.
It was a grant.
that was based there this
Right.
past summer, and I can't remember, I was connected to them by Patrick Joseph, and I
Yeah.
can't remember.
and he told me that it was a grant that they had to, by law, give it to a nonprofit. And he couldn't think of anybody better but us.
Well, that's cool.
Well, my point is, I'm being verbally accosted by a few of the residents because it's a dually, it's 3,500, you know, it's a nice looking truck.
It's a one-ton crew cab Duramax.
And I didn't do the dents in it, those were pre-me, so, but, do me a favor, maybe get it out there on the internet, that the truck was donated, we did not buy it, we didn't pay what the price is, so,
Do you have signage
you know, they're
on it?
yelling at me because
Yes.
it's expensive vehicle and they're paying, you know, $50 for their water, whatever it is.
Wow.
So it's really unfortunate. I had to educate a couple of people and it didn't work anyway. They told me to
That's
sell it
too
anyway.
bad. I'm sorry you have to do that.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Can we put the thank you to contact group in the Plymouth Sun, so it kind of gets out there, or somewhere. Thank you for the donation. I think,
So we are in need of a vehicle,
Here it
the F-250, or the F-250 has, really just truly fallen apart. None of the vehicles before I got here have been taken care of. The F-250 is really a hazard, to be quite honest, to drive. We have staff that are driving in two to three people in a vehicle, which I don't like, because I always feel like we should be in different vehicles, getting different things done, rather than riding shotgun. So, we are in need of a vehicle, but if I can make a suggestion, maybe we can buy a used one. And then Christy Corbett, Son's manager, general manager at a Dodge, maybe, I know Adam wants to get it from it's gotta be from CSD, kind of.
It's not me, it's we have a
All right,
policy. We have a
it's a
board
policy, but that guy in Folsom or Woodland or whatever, he's not responsive, so I've given up on him. I spoke with a retiring supervisor at Plymouth County. He said at the time that Greenville wasn't gonna be slated for paving until the end of the summer, and I requested that be moved up to the spring. So if any of you all know, I think the guy's gone already, but whoever took his place, if you all know him, maybe you could get in his ear a little bit and really push to have Greenville repaved. Is definitely in need of it. The storm drains in this community are atrocious. I don't think I've ever seen anybody cleaning them, rehabbing them. They've collapsed on most of the streets. If you also have anybody at the Public Works Department for Plymouth County, I would really strongly suggest trying to have those rehabbed so that the storm water is directed towards where it's supposed to go rather than in the homes, in some of the lots that are getting they're getting inundated with the water because the storm drains are not directing the water towards the creeks that they should be.
did you talk to Kevin Goss about it?
I have not.
Let's put his name by that.
We secured a contract with a company that I've used numerous times called Commercial Plumbing, and I highly recommend this guy if you need him in the future. I can always act as an interim between, but he has won the contract. It was about $50,000 to $60,000 less than another bid, and the only issue that we're having is, I think, is it JD that owns the property back? Katie. So he's rebuilding his road, back in that area. He's asked us to not drive on it, I gotta get on it. So I've sort of delayed the project a little bit. The gentleman from the contract company is building the panel. It's gonna be SCADA, just like the others, so we'll have control of it. I'll be able to view it, see what the levels are, and that's for the Calais lift station. That is your last one. This will be my swan song, yeah. And so it will be the last lift station that you'll probably all of us will be dead by the time it needs to be rehabbed. So looking forward to finishing that before I go. And then, but I do need to have access to that. He also owns that bridge, by the way, and he said that he was going to be the one that was gonna repair it.
Katie,
So, okay, yeah.
that has to be designed for H20 loading, doesn't it?
I think
No,
so.
I don't even know what
It's
H20
all
is.
private, the roads are private, and the bridge is private. So maybe we could offer him a load of gravel or something. No?
We have an access easement, we have a legal right to be there.
Oh, okay.
We do actually, yeah. We secured and completed a contract with A1C Electric to install the electricity to our new office at the 5-acre lot. So that's been completed. We have heat and air, bathroom, which we have not had for the last year or so. So, we don't have to go to the market or anywhere else later. We did discuss a little bit about the dam as if there were to ever have any kind of a catastrophic failure, we wanna come up with some sort of an alarm system. So I'll be looking into that, you know, down in the future a little bit, but there are some options that we can look into for that. We, Forest Seer Institute, I've been dealing with them for a long time. They have a 3-inch water line, feeding that facility. It's highly, cross connection is very high hazard for that because they have chemical vats. They have a well. They have a 3-inch backflow that was in disrepair, and I was going to cut their line because they were not being very proactive on getting a backflow installed, but however, they did have it installed on Thursday of last week, and I had it tested on Friday.
In Taylorsville?
Crescent Mills. Yes, here in Institute, I knows it. So that's done, and that was a big one for me. PG&E's back. We had over averaging 20 811 digs again.
Just
So,
recently?
Yeah. And now it's for mainly pedestals.
Are we billing them?
Yeah.
Why?
811 digs now.
They bill us?
I think that's a,
For 811 requests, we can't. It's,
Oh, 811 requests, I thought these were digging, sorry, my bad,
the Christie boxes, which are the water meter boxes, most of the ones that are in the community are in shambles. They are also the size, that they call them 12B. And I've purchased numerous, probably over 60, 16Bs, because we cannot work inside of these to turn off the curb stop, the corp stop, and to work on the meter. They are too small for our hands, our arms to get in. So we went to a larger one, and I'm having them all rehab. You'll see that throughout the community. I'm almost completed with Crescent Mills. And then I'm gonna start down on Jesse and try to do the downtown area. One other issue that I have is, we still haven't really developed the backflow prevention program. I was waiting for George, but the new guy said that he was gonna become a tester, hopefully. So he'll be able to run the program. You have numerous wells. I've got a list of how many lots have wells. Any lot that has a well and has public service, water service, has to have a backflow prevention device. The issue up here is that it's called a reduced pressure device. It's 12 inches above grade. You have freezing cold up here. I'm pushing and requesting, it's their private property, it's gonna be on them. But these devices are not cheap. They have to enclose them. We've gotta get enclosures so that those backflows, the water lines that are exposed to the frigid cold, they will expand and they will bust, which is what happened at Sierra Institute, because they did not have any kind of an insulation bag. To date, using the limited mapping that we have physically with a jackhammer uncovered 6 inches of pavement from 6 sewage manholes and 8 G5 key valves for our main water line distribution system. Just paved right over them.
Just keeps
Paved right over them. We've been out on trying, this is one of the issues that Diggett had, because they were complaining we weren't able to shut off valves. We couldn't find them. So we bought the Green Genie. It is a metal detector that is phenomenal. It'll go very deep. We were able to find numerous valves and manholes and uncovered them. We found 4 today at Green Meadows. So I don't know exactly what was happening with the county. I heard some stories. Prior management didn't get along with the county. The county decided they were gonna pave over it. So 6 inches of pavement on top, which means to me it's been 2 or 3 layers. So usually it's 2 or 3
That's
inches.
good.
And that's my hope for the final report, the board,
One question,
yes.
did the dam surface ever get crack sealed?
No,
So that needs to go on that list.
I would love to see that happen.
Because I know that the state.
I would love to see that. I know we talked
So
about
that's
it.
entirely up to, we have asked the county to look at
And
it.
they have it.
They did come out, even in the last couple of months, they came out, they inspected it, yes. The road crew did, and it's entirely up to them when they're gonna do it. They did express, if I recall correctly, that they did not see that there was a big issue.
Yeah,
So it didn't sound like I was going high on their priority.
Yeah, but they're not the ones answering to the state either, are they? Should we hire a company, independent contractor,
you, you're the board.
to go up and crack
I
seal?
mean, we haven't had any, there's no major findings in our last,
it was called,
It
it was called
yes.
out, but it's not,
but it wasn't
it was
like,
not a
is
pressing
it,
issue.
No,
you
it
know,
doesn't go do
it
this
hasn't
right
come
now to
through
do it.
at the elbow down at the bottom. And remember too, all that's gotta be kept vegetation clean. We have to keep all the vegetation away from the face of the dam, so that you can ever see any kind of a leaks. And there's something really unusual, I'm not a dam person, but there's an actual pipe with water coming out of the bottom, and apparently that was built that way. And I don't remember who, somebody enlightened me to the fact that that's the way it was built back then, so.
Who's responsible for cleaning the vegetation?
We
We are.
have. But I've had complaints that we use, Roundup on them, and it's the only way we can do it, we can't do it any other way, so.
Yeah, it's too dangerous for somebody to go on around it.
I
A
got
lot of
the way.
rattlesnakes, a lot of rattlesnakes, by
Was
the way.
there?
Really surprised up here, I don't know, you all had rattlesnakes this high, I haven't seen any.
Okay, any other questions for Mike?
Awesome, right?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Orange?
Okay, as is standard practice, we hold our training nights on Tuesday evening, alternating between Taylorsville and the Greenville stations. We did do, a couple weeks ago, engine inspections, and we did driver training at the Greenville High School back parking lot. Utilizing road cones from the Plumas County Road Department, we set up a driving course, similar to what we did in Driver 1A up at Lassen College. This consisted of a slalom course for the apparatus, where it was driven through the course and then backed up through the cones, having to weave in and out of them. There's also a backing and parking course set up on the other side of the lot, rescue rig 7651, two Type 1 engines, 7622, 7626, and also a wildland engine 7671 are utilized. Last night, we did a practice structure fire, and we performed that at the old Taylorsville Elementary School at engine 7626, 7622, 7632, and rescue rig 7662 were all deployed. Hoses were let out around the building and water deployed and sprayed. Everybody operated all the pumps. And then 2 additional evenings were work parties at Taylorsville Station, cleaning and also building a workbench. Equipment obtained from other fire departments, specifically Orville Fire Department. We transported over the Connex trailer in Greenville from Perrysville Station in anticipation of eventually doing needed sheetrock work and painting there. Not all the testing equipment arrived in time for our scheduled all-day training for this past Saturday. Will be rescheduled when the equipment arrives, and actually that was today. I picked up the last piece of equipment today to do apparatus engine pressure testing and also hose pressure testing. 2 firefighters will be attending the Quincy Fire Academy, which will run consecutive 6 consecutive weeks starting in April. That is Mr. Nero and Mr. Chamel. And then Basic 32 Wildland Firefighter class will be held the weekend of April 25th in Greenville. That'll be 3 days. Class will be monitored by the U.S. Forest Service personnel to meet the red card requirements. And that's being held, the instructor is coming through adult education. Brad Miller will be here, and that's free to us. As I talked about last meeting, our training topics are scheduled in advance now and on the calendar, so firefighters generally know what to expect, and it's a night that they would like to attend. I met again yesterday with the fire management officer of Plumas National Forest. We should finish up the cooperative local fire agreement with Forest Service for the summer in the coming weeks. The finalization is on pause until final approval comes from Washington DC. Currently, all agreements are on hold pending political decisions from there. Weather's report period, we have had no major fires or vehicle accidents. Responses have been with constant medical calls regarding the ambulance. Our newest member of the fire department is doing her life scan tomorrow at the sheriff's office. She had to postpone it in a couple of days due to an issue. And our next 3 meetings are scheduled to do apparatus inspections here in Greenville, operate the jaws of life extraction gear, and go through our SCBA donning and dumping drills. I will be attending a fire chiefs meeting this Saturday in Quincy. And then I also was in attendance at the zoning administration meeting this morning in Quincy. I talked with Jeff Morris afterwards, and he is sending in the encroachment permits to Caltrans this week to be able to move forward. So, yeah,
For the fire
I'll report.
encroachment on the highway.
yes.
I have a question, Bob.
Yes.
Is there a plan or has it been thought of to get generators put on the Taylorsville firehouse?
Generators installed in Tazewell Firehouse?
In case the power goes out, we can have electricity
We
there.
we have a total of 3 portable generators, but as far as a total in-house generator to run the whole station like you would have at the courthouse or hospital or sheriff's office, no. And a very good question is, I'm just now thinking about the new, station, if we have a whole house generator in place for that, I will have to talk to Jeff to see if there is one for that. Todd Johns, the sheriff, had told me that he would be able to apply for a grant to help us out on that, but maybe put one in over here at the station, but, thank you, that's a great question, and I don't recall it being in the building plans, but I will fire off a text message afterwards and find out if that's in there. If not, we'll certainly get that added into it. So the building plans have not been submitted to the building department too, he's finalizing them, but if that needs to be done, we will. At one point, I don't know if we were thinking about doing a generator, because we were talking about the cogen plant being on site and powering it, and so that wasn't a necessary thought if we were gonna have a cogen plant, but my understanding that's probably gonna be at a different location, so now that, maybe that needs to be done.
Awesome, thank you.
No, thank you.
To add to that, all of your wastewater lift stations and all of your water treatment plants have backup generation power. We will not run out of water, we will not overflow any wastewater. And they're also on automatic transfer switch, ATS, so they'll automatically transfer over to generator power anytime PG&E loses.
And they're all new. Most of
No.
them are new.
Highway 89 is extremely old. If you ever need to replace one, that's gonna be your next one.
Any other questions for the fire? Okay, personnel policy updates.
Okay, so, these are 2 policies that we are asking for you to approve modifications to. So what we have existing for vacation pay and sick pay, first let me say that this is not changing the amount of accrual for any employees. We're not changing anything that the board hasn't already approved. The problem that we discovered, or that became apparent as we're switching payroll providers, so right now, our policy is that a full-time employee must work at least 30 hours a week. So you work between 30 and 40 hours a week, you're a full-time employee. The problem is that we have historically awarded a flat amount of vacation and sick pay per pay period. So that, in my opinion, that's pretty unfair. So, I'm working 30 hours a week and I'm getting the same amount of vacation that Keegan is getting for working 40 hours a week. It's just simply not fair. So, what these 2 policies before you do is change the way that hours are accrued from per pay period to per hour worked. So now you will earn proportionally the amount of vacation and sick that you should, based on whether you work 25 hours, 30 hours, 40 hours, instead of everyone earning a flat amount per pay period. Get it?
That's what I do.
Any questions?
Sick leave is the same.
Sick leave is the same. They were both per pay period flat amounts. And now it'll be, you work so many hours, then you earn, for
Right,
instance,
percentage.
yeah.
makes sense to me. I make a motion that we approve that as presented.
Thank you, Susan. Mary? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. All right.
How do we put something on the agenda now, or just writing, or calling, or show up?
Want something listed on the next agenda?
Committee, yeah, we need to appoint committee.
Yeah, that was supposed to be done in December.
So we really only have a finance committee.
Yeah.
Do we wanna do appointments for that, or,
Well,
is the way that,
Our stuff says finance, personnel, public relations, and ordinance.
And what's ordinance?
Ordinance, like, the book. We wanna make a rule,
Mhm.
something.
Yeah, we can do committee appointments, probably next Thursday might be a good time.
And it says in here too, but can we have three? Do we have to change the whole thing to make
So
it
the
three?
problem is that if you have 3 board members, then that's a meeting of the board.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, got a request. Can you put on our agenda, say, we make it number 9 for comment, just general comment, like if we wanna present, say, hey, Adam, would you put something on the agenda for next week that we actually have a period dedicated to, for comment?
Well, what we can do is the item,
I know she got it on Chester's.
yeah, so the item before adjournment, let's add like a board member comment section. Or item. Anything else? Alright, otherwise we'll be back here Thursday at 10. We will have lunch for you and lots of extremely interesting training.
These are the
This
attorneys,
is Thursday the 3rd.
Yes.
yes, the attorneys coming and
Yeah, yeah.
you have any idea what we're covering?
I have to have my paperwork.
So in the morning, she's gonna go over, some basic, Brown Act things, some basic governance principles, it'll give you guys an opportunity to ask, some legal questions. We don't wanna get into, closed session stuff, but, give you the opportunity to ask legal questions, stuff like that.
I do have another request. Can we each get a copy of the Brown Act and Robert's Rules of Order?
They're electronic on the CSDA site, not in paper.
We can get you something. Funny note, we don't use Robert's Rules of Order, we use Rosenberg's, which is simply a simplified version of Robert's Rules that most public agencies in California use.
Oh, okay.
Rosenberg's Rules. Very similar to Robert's, just not as
Antiquated.
yes. This isn't a 4-H club.
They almost,
That's not antiquated.
it is too, the way they write it,
Oh, it seems like old fashioned.
Yeah.
But it's used
Well,
quite a lot.
Well, I have one in it from like 1806 or
It's
something.
been used for a very long time.
for
But it's
what?
still 50.
Still current.
Yeah.
I would prefer to penalize them rather than
They almost
incentivize
used
them.
to be down.
Go through that, yeah.
Yeah.
Were they awarded the raw water line, Alan?
No, we never awarded that.
Gonna reply it then.
We're gonna rebid it. No updates yet. Are we adjourned?
Are we adjourned? Do we have a motion to adjourn? I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
I'll send him a text, ask him.
Awesome, thanks, Bob.